Well, from Earth to space, 2021 was a big year for space, at least for billionaires like Richard Branson, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos. Well, our next guest predicts big things are in store for 2022. Let's bring in Chad Anderson. He's the founder and managing partner of Space Capital. It's an early stage venture capital firm that invests in the space economy. Chad, great to chat with you again. So if 2021 was all about billionaires getting themselves into space, what is 2022 going to look like?
I mean, let's just talk for a second about how big this was.
Okay.
I mean, you can't talk about the space economy without talking about SpaceX. And they had a huge year. 31 launches, more than 90% of those were on flight-proven boosters, so rockets that had already flown to space. They ended the year with 3 launches in 3 days, and they had the 100 recovery of a booster before anyone else has even figured out how to do it once. So, this was a huge year for SpaceX, and it's been a huge year for investment, particularly in space infrastructure. We've got our preliminary Q4 data is coming in, and it looks like for the whole year 2021, we have over $14 billion of investment in infrastructure and $39 billion across all space technology stacks. So we now have $250 billion into 1,700 space companies over the last 10 years. And, we expect that growth to continue.
Chad, that all sounds really great and really progressive. But let's talk about the risks here. And I'm, of course, mentioning space collisions in particular. Just yesterday, we got some news that China has now filed claims with the UN about SpaceX and some of their satellites getting into very close contact with some of their own astronauts. Talk to us about this risk and how that plays out in 2022.
Well, there's a lot of growth in this category, no doubt. So the number of satellites that were launched in 2020 was more than 20 times the number that was launched in 2010. There's 3,000 satellites in orbit today, and that's projected to grow anywhere between 50 and 100,000 in the next 10 years. So there is a lot of growth, a lot of new business happening in space. So that's first of all, but there's over 100 times more pieces of debris in orbit. So this is an issue. But we've been operating on pretty archaic technology. We have much better data today. Companies like Leo Labs have a network of ground-based radars that are allowing us to track objects that are 2 centimeters in size, which is feeding into Starlink. And Starlink, SpaceX has very advanced systems for collision avoidance, automated collision avoidance, and that Leo Labs data is feeding into that.
Yeah.
So, we're also operating with some cutting edge technology here, and space is big.
Yeah, that's an understatement, Chad. I mean, let's go a little bit deeper into that vastness beyond just the satellites orbiting Earth. You got China talking about setting up some sort of facility on the moon within the next 5 years. Elon Musk saying that it's certainly a realistic possibility we can have a human setting foot on Mars within a decade here. What's the end game here? And I mean that from a business perspective. I mean, we know what the end game is just from the general sort of sci-fi fantasy and the fascination we all have with just what humans can achieve. But from a business perspective, I guess, what's on the moon? What's on Mars?
So this is big news. I mean, we have the first commercial missions are launching next year, as you mentioned. One of our portfolio companies, Astrobotic, is just finishing up to ship out their lunar lander to be integrated onto the rocket. So there's multiple commercial missions that are going to the moon in 2022, which is a first. And these are robotic precursor missions for NASA's larger human landings, Artemis missions, and those that are being talked about by SpaceX. So this is a big deal, and it's happening through commercial companies for the first time. And Starship is key to all of this. SpaceX's lunar lander is Starship. This is the vehicle that's going to land on Mars as well. And so I think, probably one of the biggest stories in 22 is going to be SpaceX and Starship. Mm-hmm. They're expected to reach orbit in early 2022. And there's never been anything like this. This is going to fundamentally change how we operate in space. It is a massive vehicle, and it's fully reusable. SpaceX changed the economics of space fundamentally 10 years ago, and has enabled all of this innovation and all of this entrepreneurship that's come in over the last 10 years. Starship's going to have a similar impact.
Hey, Chad, I wonder, speaking of SpaceX, I know, and we should know you are an investor in SpaceX. It's still a privately held company worth tens of billions of dollars now. What do you think is 2022 has in store for SpaceX as a business? Is this a company that IPOs in 2022, or does it stay as just a massive private company for a few more years?
Well, I think SpaceX has plans to stay private for the foreseeable future. The company has said they plan to stay private until they have a regular cadence of launches and landings on Mars. But what's the Starlink program, their low Earth orbit satellite broadband, is meant to be rolling out commercially in 2022, which is a big, something that we're really looking at. There's a massive opportunity here. We could see 20x the broadband capacity come online in the next 5 years at latency that rivals terrestrially. So Starlink is key to funding their deep space aspirations. And, a big question mark for us is, will we see Starlink spin off in an IPO in 2022?
Right.
I think we'll have to wait and see.
All right. Chad Anderson, founder and managing partner of Space Capital, the early stage venture capital firm that invests in a space project. Chad, Happy New Year. Thanks so much for joining us.